All right. It is 4 p.m., January 4th, 2026. Didn't realize I was, didn't realize I'd get this far, but here we are. I'm joined by friend Brian here.
Hey, everybody. It's great to be back with y'all here on the other side of the new year. Really excited to talk about my New Year's quote unquote resolutions and everything that's been happening to us in the last few episodes, or since the last few episodes. So, David, why don't you start us off? How's your life been? I think it's been a couple of months.
Yeah, unfortunately, things have popped up, and it was one of the things I felt like we were on a good track for a while, but life kind of gets in the way in some aspects, and me starting a new job, and I know you had some things going on, and especially around the holidays, things get a little bit hectic. But I'm glad to be back, and I've been good, just sitting and kind of reflecting on 2025 as a whole, and starting therapy again. Obviously, the new job that started in August, and just trying to come to those realizations, those aha moments of my habits and why I do certain things. And I felt like I've made a pretty good runway with it, but it's hard not to get sidetracked in some ways or feeling down when, kind of just go on autopilot and revert back to old ways and that. But I think from, an overall perspective, I day to day feeling better, feeling like going in the right direction. And there's some things that I'd like to work on more in the new year. But as we were talking before this recording started, kind of with the new job and personal improvements and things, it's like I don't really want to set deadlines for myself or goals or anything, because it's a lot of new territory in certain aspects. And a lot of times the work outside of the work that I'm doing that leads to some of those aha moments, or I feel like I'm hitting a wall for so long, and then something happens and I come to a realization, and most of the problem is fixed. So I think that's kind of one of the good things about work, is it gives you those feelings of accomplishment and those small victories that you had, or those aha moments in that. But I think personal improvement in life, it just has been so extended, and it never stops. That's kind of the scary thing, but also kind of the beauty of it. And so there's always more to learn about yourself and about the world and where we fit into it. So I am excited for the new year, and I'm glad to be sitting here talking to you to start off the first week of 2026. So why don't you take it over and tell us a little bit about what you've been up to?
Yeah. I ended the year, kind of on a high note. I got a huge. As many of you know, I'm like a webmaster, so, which kind of just a fancy term that I make sure that all the
The new
content.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, I'm the Aldi brand Spider Man, or the Great Value Spider Man. Um, God damn it, I broke my concentration.
Webmaster coming to theaters December
Oh yeah,
2026, starring
yeah,
Jared Leto.
yeah. This multi-million dollar flop. No, um, I ended on a high note. I pushed a lot of code to get uh, our website the ability to have what they call a persistent token, or log turn and login type thing, kind of like what Amazon has. So like whenever you log into like the app or the website, they're always logged in, or at least it gives the user that appearance. What it really is just like a token that kind of stays stored on your computer, would be the easiest way to explain it. That every time you go to that website, it starts that token over. Usually they last for 30 days. So if you don't log in for 30 days, you're going to just get logged out. Um, but a lot of our users that we kind of let beta test our site, that's kind of the primary complaint, was like, okay, like I have this client, I want to be able to look at my pricing. So I just want to be able to go to this website, give them a quick quote. If they purchase it, then I can buy it off the website. Well, they they thought they were able to do that. They we honestly didn't think of that as a feature for the site. But we got multiple complaints and just multiple different reasons to have that as a feature. So it took like 3 months to get this all done between testing, coding, um, user driven feedback and all that. Uh, and we finally got it pushed live. So that took a huge chunk off my life, felt like off my life, but I was finally able to get it pushed and all done. So that felt great. Um, I think just 2025 for me as a whole was all about refinding who I was after a miserable 2024. Like, I had spent a lot of time in therapy in 2024. I spent a lot of time drinking, then I got my current job. And I was just trying to survive towards the end of the year, you know, kind of where David is at with his, where you're at with your, maybe just trying to figure out your place in that type of world, right? That, like, that corporate world, just understanding everything. What value can I bring? But also, who was I as a person? 2025 was kind of just, for me, just finding out who I was again without any substance, without any, like, you strip it down to the bare bones, and I'm just a large and in charge dude with not a mostly outgoing personality. I think they call it an introverted or extroverted introvert. Um, who loves talking about just any sort of thing, but then after a while, I get I get a little tired. My social battery just goes down to zero. So I've been working on kind of just myself and picking and choosing those types of, we'll say, battles. So I'm not always just like burnt out on energy. I'm working out more. I'm eating a more higher protein diet. It's just been about finding out who I was and being consistent about it. um I feel like it's the comeback, or it was the comeback here. Now 2026 is going to be like my coming out party, like proving to the world, or really just to myself, that I belong here in my current role. And you know I am establishing who I am and what I want to be. So I have pretty lofty goals for 2026. um yeah, I mean, it's kind of what I was mindset was, going into it. And I've, on a shorter note, I've started playing a lot more video games online. I noticed that I am happier. I'm more, my brain, that section of my brain is just kind of like picking back up of like problem solving, and like I feel like I'm doing better at work because of it. So I'm just going back to being a new version of my old self. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, it's awesome. I feel like a lot of times we kind of find our way, and sometimes it's hard to realize, kind of how far off the beaten path we've gotten. And sometimes life gets in the way, or things that we got to take care of, and it's hard to stay truly connected to who you are in the world. And sometimes you're getting pulled in different directions and asked to do different things, and you still got to continue managing that social battery, or managing your day throughout work, or at home, or on the weekends, and a lot of times I sit and question myself and wonder, is this worth doing if I'm doing something that I don't consider productive? Or is this just, the mindset that I've had a long time of just like that shame of feeling like I'm, wasting time, or I'm being lazy, or I could be doing something else. So, yeah, I mean, it's great to hear that 2025 is kind of the comeback for you. And then 2026 is, kind of building upon that foundation of cementing yourself and making sure that you can't be moved from, kind of who you are, and you sticking to your truth, I guess is how I'm interpreting it.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. And I think, those are it's part of my, I'll say, New Year's goals. My wife and I kind of did away with like resolutions because and changing more to goals. Like, I guess like saying it out loud, it kind of just it sounds like the same thing, but we're actually kind of having like an action list, right, with our goals. We sat down New Year's Day and kind of just drew out like a roadmap of everything that we wanted to accomplish. Like, we ourselves have to get it, you know, it's financial goals, it's personal couple goals, it's individual goals for ourselves. So it was like a whole thing, and you know, we as a couple haven't done that like at all. Like, we've kind of just been winging it up until this point, and so for us to kind of sit down and you know, come with a plan, um, kind of just says a lot of us of our evolution, over the past year. Like, we went to couples therapy over the summer. Like, if we still feel like we're getting to that point of we need to talk to someone else, we'll go. It's not like we go consistently, but we got to a point and we learned enough skills to where we can manage it on our own. And now we're, kind of coming together for the first time in our almost 7 years of being married, of like actually having a plan. And, you know, my wife is always big on, if things don't work out on time, it's okay. But like, my thing was always, we need to have some sort of plan, to know where we're going, right? So we have different perspectives, but we finally kind of came to a unity. So, and that's kind of my long-winded way of saying, I don't necessarily anymore believe in New Year's resolutions, quote unquote. I just more believe in, short attainable goals, kind of thing, and that's what we're focusing on as a couple in 2026.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think even for this specific episode, me and Brian trying to get back into recording throughout the year. So we're just trying to stick to a quote unquote tight 30. Might go a little bit over, might be a little bit under, but the idea is that with resolutions and trying out something different, I think, at least in my mind, you got to start small and build upon that. And kind of one of the issues I've had is like, okay, well, when do we know to extend the episode length? Or if you're trying to work out more, how do you know if you're starting out small enough? Or if you're eating healthy, how do you know you start off small enough and when to add more things into it? But I think,
Yeah.
in your mind, the basis of, setting these small attainable goals is the communication and working as a team to figure out, okay, how do we measure things? Because I think with actions and things, at least for like work, it's good. You kind of have that plan of reference to say, hey, we wanted to remodel the bathroom or something. Not to get too off topic, but if you do have any sales on Japanese toilets, let me know, because I have to redo our bathroom. But in I guess the kind of science behind like New Year's resolutions and that is that motivation becomes a big perspective of it. And one of the things that I had to change about myself is that I would get so far into something and I would start out and wanted to change just automatically with no actual patience, and then eventually I'd fail because I bit off more than I could chew, and I fell back into feeling like it wasn't good enough for that change. So definitely having kind of notes, action plans, things written down to kind of measure, but not strictly enforcing or sticking to it, so closely as you go along. But I think it's good to, kind of have that down and maybe have that, kind of recurring, if it's not with, your partner or something, but just yourself, to set action plans for the week or the month, and then, take time to check in with yourself and see where you're going and when you can fit other things in. It's really, planning stuff, it takes the time, but it's definitely well worth it in the end to kind of see, hey, I had 10 things I wanted to do this month. We did 7 of them. That's pretty good. We took care of and then you can start marking. Well, we took care of the things that are more critical. And we had three other things that we've kind of just been working on at our own time. So we can move that on to next month. It's not a big deal. And there's always going to be more that comes up. Being a homeowner or parents or in a relationship or something. There's a lot of things that you got to keep track of, and it's hard sometimes to actually know that you're doing the right thing in a lot of cases. But if you're not, then yeah, you just got to take a step back and reflect.
Yeah, for sure. It and especially we're like on the first kind of year of this, so it's going to be more trial and error than anything. So I know that I tend to get very flustered easily if things kind of don't go the way that I expect them to in the first try, which is not the greatest character personality trait to have. But I'm going into this with an open mind that if something doesn't succeed and it's first time, it's okay. Like nothing's perfect. Um, and part of my 2026, or I'm sorry, my 2025 was I wanted to get back to the gym regularly, and I failed. I'll fully admit that I failed on that to go regularly, but I was going at least. And it was a good start in the right direction, but I'm following more, um, you know, we'll call them macro bros, I guess. I don't know, gym bros of just kind of basic slow workouts to kind of just like do at home to ramp up to go to the gym. You know, I do want to actively lose weight and I've got the diet down. I just don't have the exercise. And I think they kind of, for me, they go hand in hand because, you know, I'm eating all the protein. I'm not looking to gain an astronomical amount of, muscle or anything. It's just I want to be in a caloric deficit. And like, I feel like I get all of this energy from eating healthier, and then like I'm gonna go to the gym, and then like that doesn't end up happening. I'll like I don't know, go play a video game or something, just kind of burn off all that. Um, so I'm eating healthier, gaining more energy, but then it's like I still have this sedentary lifestyle, so I want to put that energy into something positive, and I think just doing like very basic workouts to start, and especially with just the timing of this of New Year's, of gyms are going to be busy until the end of February at the very least. Um, so I'll, kind of work out here to ramp up, and then when gym memberships start dying off, that's when I swoop in. And I feel like I told the story last year, but you know what? Damn it, I'm following through this time.
All right. Well, I won't hold you to it, but I'm sure you can, through the trial and errors, and figure out some way that it works for you. And at least if I can, my perspective on eating healthier is that, yeah, maybe you're getting extra energy and you're not putting it towards the gym, but that could help you out in work to keep you from getting as burnt out, or maybe you can think about things for longer. We know
Yeah,
mental fortitude and mental energy that gets expended. I think chess players, like, they burn a ton of calories. Like, our brain at work does burn a good amount of calories. So you're still getting that from eating healthier and gaining some of that energy. And whether it goes into, working out, or that extra energy expended in some other areas, I think that's good. And then the, kind of just the investment, and it's still more of a sedentary lifestyle. But if you're eating healthier, and um, if you're eating healthier, then it's just going to pay dividends later on in life. And I think that's, kind of one of the things that I struggled with for a long time, was just kind of that early investment in compounding interest of doing things that are healthier right now. And it's harder, it's easier to keep kind of pushing that back. But then uh, the future of healthcare doesn't look very great. And I know, at least to me, I'd like to extend my life as much as possible so I'm not in pain or having medical issues in the coming years, because I hadn't taken care of myself very well. So I do think it's a very good spot to start, and I'm glad to hear that you've been doing well with that, and that's been sticking.
Yeah, obviously, like nutrition is probably nutrition should next to like taking care of your child should be like your top priority because it's like you said it's going to pay dividends and help fight like long term disease and you know you're just going to be a healthier person and nutrition is like the basis of that. Obviously, like working out and um, pumping iron, clanging and banging, as they say, is also important. But those things kind of have to go hand in hand for it all to work out, right? You got to throw all your ingredients in the pot and get them cooking. So, um, one step at a time. Like, I thought I was trying to come up with a cheesy LinkedIn post of comparing salt and pepper to HTML and CSS. Like, yeah, it's all great, like that people want to be like use React and just use all these like Kinder seasonings, but like one, those tend to be over processed, and two, salt and just simple salt, pepper, maybe a little garlic and onion powder go a long way with cooking. You know, you get those down, you get the basics, and I kind of just feel like, in this scenario, salt and pepper is just kind of like nutrition, and even if it's just a start light workout to start, like you already got yourself a good foundation, and we've talked about this on our podcast for I don't know how many episodes we've done, but it's always just building the foundation of something, and it maybe at the end of the day, the foundation just becomes you as an entirety as a person. But I think building, if you have to build different foundations for different things, like you got to start somewhere. So, our big thing on this podcast is accountability, and you know, um, I'll be the first one that I'm not always. I don't always hold myself accountable on things, but we're getting there. It's like I said earlier, trial and error, and we're getting there.
Yeah, self love, self gratitude, some humility. Your basic spices of life that
Exactly.
help out in a lot of dishes. You know,
Yeah.
and yeah, it a lot of the thing. Unfortunately, most of the stuff I do every day is stuff I don't want to do. You know, and
Same.
most of the stuff you don't want to do is going to be healthier than the stuff you do want to do. So trying to find that balance in life, it's tough. I deal with it a lot, and I know a lot of people also deal with it. But the outside of that, like just trying to, you know, figure out like when you are making excuses or when, you're aware of something, but then start to feel bad that you're not, kind of working on it. You're not where you want to be yet. This stuff takes time, and fortunately over Christmas break, I love family members and all that, but um, a lot of us had our dysfunctional families. So whether we liked it or not, we picked up on bad habits. So like talking to one of my cousins, it's like we picked up on a lot of bad habits, and it takes a long time to kind of unravel and understand why it is that we do the things that we do. We've lost people to drug and alcohol abuse, people that we loved, and it's tough to see some of the other family members that are kind of falling through that same hole. But when something like that happens, or if you have a moment of reflection or a moment of shame that gives you that good motivation to quit it, or to try to just get better, that's good to have that feeling. But the underlying issues are what you got to figure out, and that stuff's a lot harder. It's a lot harder to dig a 5 foot hole than it is just to kind of scratch the surface and think that's enough. But in some cases, we gotta really understand, the why and what we do, and what who we are as a person, and at the same time, like what you do well, and areas of strength and areas of development to prioritize, kind of what to work on. But that's kind of like I was saying, the scary but beautiful parts of life is that there's always more to learn, and there's more to build upon, and um, getting to know yourself. In my experience over the last year or so has been a pretty humbling experience, and also a pretty exciting experience because it gives me the insight to know what I have to fix and how I can go about doing it. So I don't want to be the person that's flying in the dark a lot of times or only caring about certain specific things. I've in doing so, I mean, yeah, sometimes it's hard. It can be overwhelming, but just finding that balance and coming back to, we're all just trying to get better every single day. And that mantra that I've had for a while of patience and persistence. I'm patiently persistent and persistently patient. And it's paying dividends. But, every day it's new variables, new struggles, and you just got to keep pushing forward.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to kind of plan for every little thing that's going to come up in your life, but you build that foundation, that base of, at least being mentally prepared for it. Like, I totally wasn't expecting a random valve to start leaking in my basement, and now my entire wall in my bathroom's warped. I'm gonna have to deal with eventually. But I I think the old me would have panicked. Started maybe being outward rude and or mean, taking out on my wife. I was pretty upset that it happened, but it had been happening for a while. But there was drywall that was in the way, and I didn't see it until the drywall started leaking. So it was like a slow drip, and you know, um, I kind of just accepted what was happening. Um, couldn't really do anything about it other than get up there and tighten up the valve. It's like a little bleeder port that was loose. Tighten that up, and it was fine. I got a fan on it, dried it off, and when we get some time/money to fix that, because it's really just a toilet and a sink in there. It's not like it's a full-fledged bathroom. So taking a dump is still fine, but eventually we're gonna have to remodel that. So but
So
yeah, I
two
mean,
Japanese toilets.
yeah, my Japanese toilet is in there. I don't have a bidet on that one yet, but one day I will. One day I will.
Put it on the list for 2026.
Exactly. Lose 100 pounds and get a S7A bidet from Toto.
Mm-hmm. Uh, but yeah, so I mean that pretty much as I had prepared, I guess.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, I think it's a good place to start. And yeah, just continuous foundation building and coming back to stuff. It's all right to put it down for a little while and deal with some other things, but coming back, I think this has helped me in a lot of ways, and getting away from it has hurt me. But unfortunately, too, with a lot of healthy habits or good productive things that we do, you put them down, and it's harder to realize that not doing it is negatively affecting you. So I am glad to hear from you. I'm glad we got this recording together, and yeah, looking forward to more of these episodes for 2026.
yeah. I'm glad we were able to find time and chat again. I miss hearing your voice and your perspective on things. So let's keep it going, everybody.
Alrighty, thanks, Brian.
All right. Thanks. Talk to you later.